Welcome everyone to the Soul of the Skull today. It is just me and Sam today, as everyone else is busy. We're coming off of a terrible loss the Vikings had to the Bengals, 27-24 in overtime here. There was ups and downs throughout the game here, but overall, it's just the Vikings again got killed with the turnovers. The two by Mullins and amongst a few other things, but that, I believe, is truly what made us lose the game here. If you have anything that Sam or
Yeah, turnovers killed us, obviously. It's one thing to turn the ball up. Turnovers are never good, obviously. It's one thing to turn over the ball on your side of the 50, but when you turn the ball over when you're in field goal range, well within it, and I believe it was twice on third down, I mean, it's just inexcusable. And, I know Mullins is a backup. It was a little shaky in the first half, just that being he hasn't started a game in 2 years, and he hasn't seen meaningful game action in 2 years either. And that essentially basically at least cost the Vikings 6 points, if not more. Yeah, and then obviously that play in overtime on the QB sneak, you can say what you want. I thought the spot on 3rd and 1 was a bad spot. I thought he got the first down initially, but I think on that 4th down, people are going to blame Kevin O'Connell for calling a QB sneak again, having Brandon Powell push him. But when it comes down to it, Mullins just has to get gritty and get that first down, get the snap cleanly, and just get a yard. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, what I think there was a bunch that I noticed that a lot of Mullins' inexperience was showing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you saw passes that were not great passes that were above receivers, behind receivers. Yes, our receivers were able to make some of those and make really good plays off of them. For example, that really good Justin Jefferson catch that was a little bit over his head, but he did grab it. Or the TJ Hawkinson one that was behind him. Good grabs because we had good receivers, but they were underthrown, overthrown, just not perfect throws. And then, yeah, with the again with the turnover there, that was the sack that ended up being the interception. He should know better than that, I think. But also at the same time, it's just like you kind of think inexperience is really a factor there.
Yeah, I think Mullins was, shaking off some rust. I mean, there were a lot of positives in this game.
Oh yeah,
The run game has just continued to get better. I mean, Ty Chandler running for 132 yards is awesome, and I think he should be RB1 going forward. Not to say Madison shouldn't get some carries still, but Ty Chandler, you just watch him running the ball at the line of scrimmage. He's shifty. He turns a lot of those losses into 1 yard gains, and he turns a lot of those 2 yard gains into 6-7 yard gains, and every once in a while he'll break one for like 20 yards. And that explosiveness he has, he ran a 4.3 40, and he just has the explosiveness that Madison doesn't. And that was one of the positives. Jordan Addison played a phenomenal game. Jefferson coming back, I thought they worked him in really well, and the defense played well until the fourth quarter. But the defense is I think a lot of this loss does go on the defense, because the defense has been your best aspect of your team for the better part of ever since Kirk went down. And when your defense gives up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, it's especially when it's your best unit. I mean, that's not going to win you very many ball games, and the defense has to. And the Bengals did a very good job of adjusting. Zach Taylor clearly made some adjustments at halftime and after that third quarter. But if you're Flores, you have to adjust back, and you have to find a way to not give up that last touchdown, or find a way to stop them when they get the ball back in overtime. So that's kind of my takes so far.
yeah. I think in the fourth quarter it seems like we almost reverted back to last year's defense where we were playing just kind of safety back, and we weren't like being super aggressive. It didn't seem like on the offense when or defense, excuse me, and we were kind of giving up those 8-yard games. They're just finding gaps in there, is what the major thing I saw about that defense.
Yeah.
But I will give them credit for those first 3 quarters. They did do a very good job of protecting against any scores in those 3 quarters. But at the end, they just couldn't close up that game and seal the deal. And I do agree that the defense is kind of to blame on this one.
Yeah, and that's a given. I mean, when you blitz as much as Flores does, you're bringing your linebackers. You're not dropping as many of those guys in the coverage. That's a risk you take. All of a sudden, if he can get the throws off, he's dumping them off 2-3 yards in front of the line of scrimmage, and then all of a sudden the safeties have to come up and make a tackle. And by the time your safeties get there, it's going to be a 6-7 yard gain. So, when you bring pressure like that, you really have to get home. And, they weren't doing that in the fourth quarter. They weren't really making Browning uncomfortable. He was getting the ball out quick. And, credit to Jake Browning. I mean, in that fourth quarter, he figured something out and found a way to beat the Vikings defense there, which is something we haven't seen in the better part of 7-8 weeks.
Yeah. I do want to kind of touch on the offense here that I can't remember exactly the exact date, but I believe it was since week 16 last year that we had a over 100 yards rushing game, which I do agree Ty Chandler did a very good job and definitely deserves that starting spot over Alexander Madison because we saw his explosiveness, that like 30-yard run. And I believe that was the third quarter there and the third beginning of fourth. That was a very good run. He blew through that. Also, we saw a lot of like 6-7 yard runs, which we hardly ever saw in previous weeks, which I was very excited to see.
Yeah, and when you look at a guy like Ty Chandler, I mean, he was a 5th-round pick out of Tennessee. He's always this like super fast guy. He's a great pass catcher in college. He was still a good pass catcher in the NFL. And, those runs that the Vikings seem to have problems with, it seemed like at some points in this season, every other run's going for a loss of 1 or a loss of 2. And, Chandler does a good job of limiting those. Part of that's the offensive line, and part of it is that they lost DJ Reader. But, I mean, even if they did have DJ Reader, I still think Ty Chandler still has a very good game. And when you look at Chandler, I mean, he has that burst, like I said, that you don't get out of Madison. Madison's more that powerful, get 1 to 2 yards, short yardage back type guy. And Chandler's that guy that's going to be able to break them like on the run that brought the Vikings down to the 1 yard line. I mean, Madison probably gets 8-9 yards and Chandler got 20 plus. So I think he's got to be the RB1 going forward and, keep feeding him, keep getting this run game going. If you can get that balance like the offense had today, you're going to win a lot of football games. So,
yeah. And touch on that, Nick Mullins didn't play a perfect game, but he was 26 for 34 with passing and 281 passer yards. He did pretty good for a receiver or for quarterback, but I mean, yeah, he did throw those 2 interceptions, which put a little damper on that. But overall, I think he did solid for being a backup quarterback who hasn't played a whole lot. And whereas Jake Brown in there, he threw for 29 for 42 for 298 yards. So.
Yeah, and a lot of those Browning completions were kind of check downs that ended up going for more yardage, which still is yardage, obviously. And Mullins, I think you roll with him going forward. I know there are going to be people going out there saying Jaren Hall should start and play, and until the Vikings are eliminated from the playoffs, I don't think you should play. You don't think you should play Jaren Hall unless you have to. I think Mullins, he runs the offense a lot like Kirk does, and that's what the guys here are used to. That's what they've been running with KOC, and even some of the guys who are here before him are used to more of that Kirk style. And, if you are going to change your offense, I'd wait till you bring in a guy like, a Bo Nix or JJ McCarthy or somebody you grab out of the NFL draft. And I don't think it's worth changing your offense for Jaren Hall or Dobbs. We saw him kind of try to do that with Josh Dobbs, which worked in the first place, and hasn't since. So I think you roll with Mullins going forward.
I agree with that. To me, it seemed like the Vikings offense as a team, it just seemed like more fluid and they were more comfortable running the plays today than they had been the previous weeks with Dobbs at quarterback. It seems like they're just kind of falling back into that routine that they had with Kirk Cousins, going through those motions and everything. Instead of having to change kind of their entire style of play, they were playing the style of play that they know and love and are good at doing, which I think that is part of the reason the Vikings offense got moving so quickly. They just fell back into that rhythm as they had when Kirk Cousins was at the helm.
Yeah, the Vikings, and you make a good point there, and part of that is because the Vikings did a great job of staying on schedule. You're not seeing a lot of negative 1 yard runs. You're seeing them getting 3-4 yards on first down on a lot of their drives they scored on. You're getting 3-4 yards on first down, 3-4 on second down, third down, you're getting the first down. I mean, that's staying on schedule and, being able to not have any plays where it's all of a sudden second and long or 3rd and 10 and you have to go make a play. You have to throw it to Jefferson. You have to stand in the pocket. And, when you can stay on schedule like that, you're going to have a really good offense in this league. And, Mullins did a good job of that. KOC did a good job of that play calling when you were on schedule. Off schedule, they did make some good plays. You had Hawkinson with a 3rd and 14. You had a couple of the more big plays that really helped in this game. And, the loss sucks, obviously. And that's kind of an inexcusable loss right there. You have to get that first. It just comes down to an overtime. You have to get that first down on 4th and inches. There's no reason you can't get that. So other than that, the Vikings, I thought they played a very good game, and I think you roll with Mullins going forward.
Yeah, I think Mullins and Ty Chandler secured themselves in the starting spots is my best opinion on this. And I also like that the Vikings, they average 4.8 rush yards per rush. And throughout the season, they've been at a 3.9. So I do really like that the Vikings actually got that run game going. And it seemed to break up all the different pass coverages had. Like they could run that RPO, or they could just simply run a couple times in a row and get close to that first down, or even that first down. It just opened up a whole variety of different things the Vikings could throw out there. And I do like the way the Vikings are headed.
And that's just the luxury of having a good run game. Early in the season, we saw some times where they just have to completely abandon the run game because there's nothing there. And, to see a guy like Chandler start to get this run game going and, keep this run game going, it opens up your play action passes. It opens up everything else in this offense. And that's kind of what KOC likes to do. If you get the run game going, he likes to, go off play action, fake it, stand in the pocket, have Mullins deliver over to Jefferson, over to Hawkinson. And you got playmakers everywhere on offense. And, having a good run game just complements that. And that's something that the Vikings have gradually been getting better at as the season went on. We saw them run the ball pretty well last week and even against Chicago a little bit. And, the run game has been progressing, which has been a good thing to see because, frankly, that's one of the biggest knocks on my Kevin O'Connell play calling is, the run game sometimes just is non-existent. And you look at teams that go win the Super Bowl, not saying the Vikings are going to this year, obviously, but you look at good Super Bowl winning teams, they play good defense and they run the ball really well. Yeah. And those are two main things that you have to be able to do. The Vikings have been playing great defense, obviously, except for that fourth quarter. But now that they get the run game going, if you got to probably win 2 of the last 3 games to make the playoffs now. And if they can do that, I wouldn't count the Vikings out of winning a playoff game, going to Detroit, winning a game, or going to a team like that and winning a game there. So we'll see.
Yeah, I got to say, I think the Detroit might have locked up the division.
It's not locked up yet.
It's not locked up? Okay.
I think maybe if they win today, they win it. I can't remember.
Because I thought they were saying that if the Vikings win out and Detroit loses out, we'd
I still think if the Lions lose today,
I think there's a chance we can get it, but it's very unlikely.
Yeah, it's slim.
But I do got to point out Jordan Addison, he played stellar today. He had 6 targets, 6 receptions, 111 yards for 2 touchdowns. That is impressive for him. Justin Jefferson did all right today. 10 targets, 7 receptions for 84 yards. I was pleased how all of these receivers played and surprised by Jordan Addison. He stepped up when Justin Jefferson was being double covered and impressed.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a super big game out of JJ. This is really his kind of first game back. Obviously last week was, but he went out pretty early again. And this was really his first full game back. So, I wasn't expecting him to do too much, and Addison really did step up and he played a really good game. And obviously Jefferson, 84 yards, for him isn't even a ton, but, just a solid game out of JJ too, especially being his first game back. I expect his production probably to ramp up more as we go to Detroit. And as we play these last 3 division games, you're going to have to. So that's going to be important too, getting Jefferson back from his injury and really going.
Yeah. To any of you viewers there, anyone watch the Justin Jefferson pass attempt? I thought that was hilarious.
It was there. It was there too. He got hit as he threw, and other than that, if he gets a clean throw off, that's probably a touchdown to KJ Osborne.
Oh yeah, I thought that was funny, and then seeing Nick Mullins smile after that, just was laughing at him. But that was a great play, and I'm glad to see the Vikings broke out something like that.
Yeah, really dipping into the bag of tricks, and I like the Vikings are going to continue to have to dial up some different stuff if they really want to if they want to make the playoffs, and I expect that to happen. And I expect them to break out some more stuff like that. I wouldn't be shocked to see another trick play within the next few weeks just to try to steal possession, steal a touchdown, whatever. I won't be shocked if we see another fake punt, maybe even a fake field goal out of this team. So that's something you're going to probably try to do against Detroit, especially when you're trying to clinch.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add here? I think we've covered most things here. Otherwise, I'm going to kind of go through our predictions and just generally while we're here. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So Joel had a prediction come off. Brandon Staley will be fired before the end of the season, which came true at halftime. And then Matt's prediction, Easton Stick will account for 2+ touchdowns versus Las Vegas came true. That is it for now.
I think
yours here is green, but I'm going to let Joel.
Yeah, and then I think someone else had Joel had one that was I don't know, did Browning complete did Browning complete 67%?
He was 29 for 42.
So
which is
that's close.
What the heck? Oh, my math is not mathing right now.
It's close. I don't really.
Oh, yeah, 69%.
Okay, so that one didn't hit.
Yeah. And then I think my Jefferson one didn't hit the 1,000 yards by the end of his 8th start.
Yeah, I don't think he's at 1,000 yet.
Yeah. I think that's all that have gone off the board so far. We'll get an updated one Wednesday after we go through all this stuff. Game picks. Can change these here. Oops, wrong. That we here we go. That's red. Green. There. Coming off here. Sam didn't get his picks in. I don't think he's gonna do them today. Sam Z. But Joel and Matt are perfect. Me and Sam are each at 50% so far this week, and the rest will be talked about Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything to add before we wrap this up, Sam?
Nope. On to Detroit. Let's hope we can get a win there.
Yeah, let's put this one behind us. Prepare the best for the game home against Detroit, and then we can hopefully we can. We'll talk more about that game Wednesday. Probably be around 3:30 again, like it usually is. So everyone, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, SKOL Vikings.